सब्सक्राइब कीजिए मुखर्जी स्टेनो इंस्टीट्यूट चैनल को और दबाइए इस बेल आइकॉन को ताकि वीडियो की नोटिफिकेशन आपको मिले सबसे पहले। 100 वर्ड पर मिनट डिक्टेशन। बी रेडी। 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1.
Art. The economic survey presented by the government to Parliament on July 4, 2019, a day before the budget presentation, targets 8% growth and aspires India to grow at this rate annually so that it becomes a $5 trillion economy in 5 years' time, 2024-25. That is the ultimate goal of economic policy, and the government thinks that by achieving it, India will become a wonderland and everything will be hunky-dory. Economists have been citing the government for the slow growth during the last 3 years, 7% and less, and say that the economy is in recession and want it to be accelerated, an ultimate craft of their profession. The obsession of the government as well as the economist fraternity with GDP growth numbers as a measure of the society progress is fallacious. It hides poor outcomes of health, education, agriculture, and industrial sectors critical to our well-being and completely ignores issues such as environmental degradation and loss of social capital. Para. The GDP is basically a measure of a country's overall economic output, the market value of all final goods and services made within the borders of a country in a year. The GDP ignores environment, home production for self-use and domestic work. The current system of measuring GDP counts armament production, wars, and cigarette production and advertising as contributors to economic growth, while child rearing, housekeeping, and volunteer work is ignored. The economic value of healthcare is a classic example of the GDP as a wrong index of progress. The USA spends 17 to 18% of the GDP on health care, but its health outcome is worst among the developed countries. The UK's state-supported public health system spends only around 9% of the GDP and is considered among the best in the world. France spends 11% of the GDP, Japan 10%, and Singapore just 5% on health care, and they all have exceptionally good health care system. The US system is in the hands of powerful drug companies and private insurers who have powerful vested interest in keeping the cost of treatment expensive and manipulate the medical fraternity and exploit the patients. In India, in recent months, car production has declined, which economists call slow growth and harmful and dub as recession. But is not it good? Should not we reduce the number of cars on Delhi roads, which is causing traffic jams, pollution, and lung diseases? Question mark. Next para. Continuous economic growth is the foundation on which the modern free market capitalist economy is built. Its inspiration comes from the West's materialist ideology, where earning money and making profit is considered the summum bonum of life. Profit can come only through growth of the economy. The corporates and businesses have deep vested interest in a system of ever rising production and consumption. In the US, the largest Fortune 500 companies account for over half the gross domestic product. The corporate and business sector wields great economic and political power and can influence the government's policies. As they are driven slowly by the profit motive, they do this by maximizing production and sale of goods and services irrespective of its environment and social costs. So long as production and sales are increasing, the GDP number would grow and keep the corporate and business sector happy. A model of development based solely on GDP growth can create serious socio-economic problems for a country, as it is happening today all over the world. It causes ecological devastation, economic inequality, promotes the culture of consumerism, and causes social Darwinism.